Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today it is going to be another Cinema Showdown versus video. And it is going to be the Star Wars Prequels versus the Star Wars Sequels. So it is May the 4th of 2022, and what better way to celebrate than by answering this hotly debated question? Because let's be honest, neither one of these trilogies comes even remotely close to the original trilogy. And amongst the majority of the fan base, both of these trilogies are pretty divisive. So I am going to answer, or at the very least provide my opinion on which is better. But with that being said, I would like to emphasize that I am focusing on the movies only today. I will not be talking about the Clone Wars or any of the novels or any of the companions or anything like that, just the movies. And as always with the Cinema Showdown versus videos, I will be comparing these two things, and in this case it is two trilogies, across 5 rounds to determine one winner. Before I hop into the actual showdown itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have an entire playlist dedicated to all of my Cinema Showdown videos. So be sure to check that out, and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And so without further ado, let's hop right into things. Round 1. Characters. When it comes to the prequels, one really does have to start by addressing the elephant in the room. And that is that there is a ton of goofy and quite cringy dialogue. But that certainly doesn't stop there from being some great and now iconic new characters, as well as some excellent and much needed backstory for others. The standouts of course are Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ian McDiarmid as Palpatine. Though Hayden Christensen's acting isn't the best, Anakin's story as a whole is superb. Then you throw in the many others that we as fans love and adore, like Natalie Portman as Padme, Sam Jackson as Mace Windu, Yoda, Count Dooku, Qui-Gon Jinn, General Grievous, among many others. Although we can't just forget some of the not-so-great ones, like of course Jar Jar Binks, but trust me, he's not the only one. When it comes to the sequels, despite the majority of the fan base being very mixed on these as of right now, none of these main characters are all that bad, honestly. In fact, I found most of them to be quite likable and relatable. Rey is a fantastic lead, and not just some Mary Sue or whatever you call it. BB-8 is the lovable new droid of the series. Finn and Poe are great new additions that I wish we got more from. Were their character arcs satisfying? Well, we'll discuss that soon. The sequels, however, also brought back the always exceptional and dearly missed Carrie Fisher now as General Leia, Harrison Ford once again as Han Solo, Chewie, C-3PO, and Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. Throw in a few others like Rose Tico, Holdo, among others, but there's no doubt that Adam Driver as Kylo Ren is the clear standout. There are also a few too many throwaway or just outright pointless characters like Snoke, General Hux, Captain Phasma, and Palpatine's return is one big joke. But this trilogy's greatest sin against its main characters is that, in my own opinion, not one of them has a single satisfying character arc. Pretty much all of the character arcs got completely botched or virtually went nowhere. Though the dialogue is much better in the sequels, and they gave us some new fantastic characters to add to the lore like Kylo Ren, the prequels gave us some of the best and most memorable characters in all of Star Wars, with many of them getting full, complete, and satisfying character arcs. Round 1 is going to go to the prequels. Round 2. Storytelling. Though there is a ton of needlessly added exposition and explanations within the prequels, as well as some other things that aren't really necessary for the Star Wars lore, among other super childish and just plain unnecessary things, I have to give credit where credit is due. It remains consistent overall throughout the entire trilogy. It is all unapologetically George Lucas. It tells one long, overarching, and ultimately satisfying story. Some points are also executed incredibly well, like Palpatine's manipulation and deception in order to get himself into a position of power, Anakin's turn to the dark side, and just about anything with Obi-Wan in it. Were the midichlorians or pod racing really all that necessary? No, not really. But by the time the credits roll on the Revenge of the Sith, it delivers a quite fulfilling and well-rounded trilogy. As for the sequels, The Force Awakens started us off with a little deja vu, because it really is just a retelling of A New Hope with a few modern tweaks. It worked though. It was familiar to longtime fans, while also offering a plenty of fresh twists, turns, excitement, and acts as a good introduction to newcomers. The Last Jedi will likely go down in history as the most divisive movie of all time. I personally enjoy that Rian Johnson subverted our every expectation. Legions of Star Wars fans were pissed because things didn't play out the way they had expected, but my point is, if they did play out that way, then where's the originality? Where's the intrigue? Why should we want to be spoon-fed the same predictable story? I may not have agreed with every choice that Johnson made, but over time I have grown to love and admire this bold entry into the Star Wars universe. They brought back J.J. Abrams to direct The Rise of Skywalker, and the poor guy had to make a sequel to The Force Awakens, retcon what he could of The Last Jedi, all while making a conclusion to this trilogy and a conclusion to the Skywalker saga as a whole. For me personally, story-wise, I think that The Rise of Skywalker failed miserably. Consistency is key for this round. The prequels had a clear-cut beginning, middle, and end. George Lucas knew what he wanted to do. He knew the story that he wanted to tell, and executed it all exactly as he had envisioned it, for better or for worse. By the time that the sequels had wrapped up, it was as clear as day that there was never any sort of roadmap or direction for this trilogy to go in whatsoever. And it is that exact inconsistency that kills this trilogy for so many people, and is its downfall for this round. Round 2 is also going to go to the prequels. Round 3. Visuals and action. The CGI within the prequels is not very good at all until Revenge of the Sith. The lightsaber duels are much cleaner and better choreographed, but the larger battles are mostly forgettable. Not every lightsaber duel is flawless though. Just look at the Count Dooku versus Anakin and Yoda one. Jar Jar's CGI is really not great, and the final battle in Attack of the Clones looks like either a cartoon or an early 2000s CGI cutscene. George really should have stuck with the practical effects, but hey, it was the late 90s and early 2000s, and CGI was very much so on the rise. Plus, George must have always been a fan because he did go back and alter the original trilogy, put in CGI for its re-releases. And as far as I'm aware, those additions are pretty much unanimously hated by the fan base. Revenge of the Sith's visuals and action still holds up really well. Those other two, on the other hand, not so much. Thankfully though, there is still a healthy helping of practical effects throughout, like many of the other alien species for instance. But of course they swapped a lot of that out too, because all of the droids and the clones are completely CGI. The sequels are simply Star Wars with modern day technology. The Battle of Starkiller Base, the Battle of Crate, and the final battle in The Rise of Skywalker are all exhilarating eye candy. Though I don't think the lightsaber duels are quite as exciting, I do feel there is still a lot to love. Sometimes the prequels are a little too clean and precise. I get that they're Jedi Knights or Jedi Masters and Sith Lords, but I like the very weighty feel that the lightsabers have in this trilogy. They feel dangerous again, and every strike feels more vicious and calculated, similar to the original trilogy. Many of the other smaller skirmishes are quite exciting as well, and the countless worlds and alien species have been brought to life unlike ever before. I feel that George Lucas just got a little too carried away with the use of CGI in the prequel trilogy, and it has only hurt this trilogy in the long run, because most, if not all of the CGI in those first two movies does not hold up very well at all. The lightsaber duels, like the Duel of the Fates and the Battle of Heroes, are masterpieces. But remember, not all of the lightsaber duels in the prequels turned out like that. Thankfully, there is still a healthy helping of practical, but not quite enough. The sequels, however, are jam-packed with some of the best visuals in the industry, alongside some of Star Wars' biggest and best action sequences. Round 3 is going to go to the sequels. Round 4. Direction. Look, I love George Lucas, one of the most brilliant, creative, imaginative, and beautiful minds who have ever existed. But the way that they went with the original trilogy, in my mind, was the way to go. A different director to add their own unique touch and style to each movie, all paired with George's storytelling. Giving him full, complete creative control over an entire trilogy was a mistake if you ask me, because I believe he went 1 for 3. No, I don't hate The Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones, but they are definitely down towards the bottom of my ranking. I love Revenge of the Sith, and if he just directed that one and gave 2 other directors the chance to direct the first 2 movies, I believe we could have had a very different trilogy that was perceived very differently as well. And look, some people love them. Some people love George's style, love the more kid-friendly side of things, love some of the more cringy dialogue, the over-reliance on CGI, Jar Jar Binks, and so on. And if you're one of those people that love all of those things, then that's totally cool with me. All the more power to you. I don't knock you at all for loving what you love. But I personally think that he was given just a bit too much freedom. However, it wasn't all that much better on the sequel side of things either. It has become very clear that there was no real direction or roadmap for this trilogy at all at any point in time. J.J. Abrams went in, gave us something fun and familiar while setting up a healthy helping of plot lines. Rian Johnson stepped in, subverted all expectations, and went way off what people were expecting. Some enjoyed and appreciated it, others hated it and claim it ruined Star Wars and apparently somehow their childhood. It was supposed to be Colin Trevorrow to have directed the 3rd movie in the Disney sequel trilogy. And if the leaked script to The Duel of the Fates is any indication as to how this movie would have turned out, I think we would have been in for a real treat in my humble opinion. However, somewhere along the way, Disney dropped Trevorrow and brought J.J. Abrams back into the chair to close things out. I think that this trilogy, if we are looking at individual movies, went 2 for 3. The Force Awakens is a top 3 Star Wars movie, and The Last Jedi just continues to grow on me. But The Rise of Skywalker is probably my least favorite Star Wars movie of them all. It's a close one, and it really comes down to what you're a fan of and what you're looking for. So you're either a fan of complete creative control, George Lucas, or a fan of Disney's take on things. I really do honestly love both, and I believe that both have their merits. But on the other hand, I truly do believe that both of these trilogies could have benefited from having different directors for each movie. The Disney era at least started out that way, and I believe that the difference in styles is very noticeable and a big part of the reason why I like both of those movies so much as individuals. Not The Rise of Skywalker. The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi are the 2 that I'm talking about. It's a tough one for sure, but I think I'm going to have to give this round to the sequels. Final round: Universe Impact and Legacy. When it comes to universe expansion, even if not all of it was 100% completely necessary, the prequels did wonders for expanding the Star Wars universe and lore. In particular, it gave us the Clone Wars, well, actually 2 versions of the Clone Wars, countless novels, even if not all of them are canon anymore, gave us a deeper knowledge of the Force and how it works, countless new iconic characters, and so much more. They may not have been very well received when they first released, but over time, legions of fans, and I mean millions upon millions, have really come around to these movies and passionately defend them. As for the sequels, I really enjoy these movies in all honesty. Yes, I do wish they could have ended on a much higher note and that more people enjoyed The Last Jedi like myself and many others, but they really didn't do much for expanding the universe and not much has really stemmed from this trilogy at all either. In fact, I think that this trilogy honestly just made things smaller. It further reinforced in my mind that the name matters more than the character themselves, and that everyone has to be connected in order to be important in this universe. You know, like Rey is a Palpatine and a Skywalker at the same time, I guess. Kylo Ren is a Solo. Finn's story arc got botched completely. Snoke was just a replica or a failed clone or whatever and being completely controlled by Palpatine, and I guess Palpatine was behind the events of everything. You know, just everyone had to be connected to someone somehow that was important in a previous trilogy. Everything was just so tightly connected. In my mind, Star Wars media has pretty much completely ignored the sequel trilogy. Star Wars games like Jedi Fallen Order and others that have been announced take place nowhere near the Disney era. Star Wars TV has been giving us things like The Clone Wars the final season, The Bad Batch, Rebels, The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka, among many others that all focus on other eras of Star Wars. And even the books have gone back to the High Republic era. Though the sequels did make bank at the box office and were much better reviewed than the prequels, so much more good has come from the prequels. They expanded the universe and lore, gave us arguably the best Star Wars content in the Clone Wars, countless iconic characters, and memorable and memeable moments, as well as they really won over the fan base with the passage of time. Although I am confident that in a decade or two you will see the same shift in fans with the sequels, but as of right now, at this point in time, it is a very mixed bag. And it seems that Disney has even already moved on and left them behind. Therefore, I'm going to be giving this fifth and final round and the crown to the prequels. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my winner. While you're at it, feel free to let me know who you would have chosen to win each round and what Cinema Showdown you'd like to see me cover next. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, and if you'd like to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you, and while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.